Hello, hello, hello. The the space has officially started. I'm gonna go ahead and tweet it out real quick. Let's see. So, yeah, since this space is recorded and the structure for the space is a little different, I'm gonna go ahead and begin as people start chiming in. But I'm gonna use the first 5 minutes to kind of discuss the breakdown, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start the agenda, right? And as mentioned before, I'm gonna go ahead and tweet or pin the above the breakdown of how I want to do this space specifically. But that being said, what's up, guys? Techie Blocks, Bruno, Alex, Braulio, buenos dias, good morning. At least over here, 9 a.m. in California. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start it off. This is called Builder Hour. This is something I've been kind of pondering on and building on the back end. Something to just share with builders, with fellow builders, and even consumers who are trying to cross the line to become builders. So, welcome to Builder Hour. Builder Hour. This one's called Sharpen Your Pitch. And today's agenda is very simple. I'm gonna explain who I am, Luis Fausto. The second order of business: how to communicate effectively. Third is shill without shilling. Fourth is be intentional with your words. And then at the end, after about 20 minutes of curriculum and me speaking, it's going to be an open mic. So I invite you guys to come up here to ask questions or share a little bit about what you guys think about building. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is kind of introduce myself, who I am, Luis Fausto, and what I do. So yeah, my name is Luis Fausto. I'm a first generation Mexican American, born and raised in California. My parents are from Jalisco, and I grew up in a small town called Hollister, California. Very small, agriculture conservative town. It is growing and being commercialized, but very close to the Bay Area, specifically San Jose, California, about 40 miles south. So, growing up, didn't understand the concept of Silicon Valley or the tech scene. So, as I grew older and started actually getting interest in the tech scene, I didn't realize how close I was to the hub. So, started learning about that. I graduated high school in 2014. Luckily enough, my parents supported me to go to college, and I got accepted to a 4-year institution, UC Santa Cruz. Originally, was going to go for electrical engineering. I don't know why. I thought I was good at math, but once I got there, calculus 2 beat me up. So I decided to change my major. So around 20, it was probably 2015, 2016 for sure, where I kind of linked up with my co-founders now, Agustin and Carlos, and I reached out to Agustin. Agustin is a big reader. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm going through some stuff here at school, not knowing what exactly I want to do. Do you have a book that you recommend?" He gave me a book, and then I started to realize, you know what? Agustin speaks a lot about psychology and judgment, and I started kind of looking that up at school. So, sure enough, long story short, I switched my major from electrical engineering to cognitive science, fell in love, and the interesting part was that I didn't do it with the intention to eventually have a practice. A lot of the majors kind of set up for you to either continue to go get your master's and your PhD to have a practice. But I took that decision to change my major because I wanted to learn about myself, and psychology was the best way to do that. Cognitive psychology specifically. So in 2018, fast forward, I was with my girlfriend of that time. Now we're co-parents, but I was expecting to have a daughter. So I had a very easy decision. I say easy decision because I knew I had a couple credits left to finish, but financially I was not able to do it. So I was like, hey, I got to take care of my family. I got to go to work. So I dropped out in 2018. And then that's when I really kind of focused with Agustin and Carlos at the time. We had an ad agency helping small businesses run ads and get digital exposure, and then we shifted into e-commerce with a drop shipping model. We made our first 6 figures there. That was amazing, and a lot of learning that happened there. And these are all precursors to what we're doing now. So yeah, we fell in love with entrepreneurship, and in 2016, a little bit backwards, that's when I got introduced. All three of us got introduced to Bitcoin and Ethereum, which was amazing. It was like it opened our minds to like, okay, this is interesting. We don't fully understand it just yet, but something's happening here, and it had already been out for more than 5 years. You know, Bitcoin was released in 2008, and actually more than 10, close to 10. So 2016 was that ICO boom. So that was a lot of fun. Now, in modern day, us three, best friends, brothers, we're building what's now Learn.io. Learn.io, in short, is a way for people to verify their education, their online education on chain, and then we're going to tie it to job opportunity. That's our big mission. As you can tell a little bit about the background that I just shared, we're all three autodidacts. Uh, Carlos and Agustin were actually interning at Google and eBay. We all don't have formal credentials. What I mean by formal is what society thinks is formal is going down the university route. And I'll be very clear. I talk about the university route a lot. We're not against it. We understand that it's a form of education. We just understand too that the new way of learning is needs to be optimized online due to the fact that a lot of us have more access to that compared to applying to a four-year institution and waiting to get accepted, and also garnering a lot of debt. So we don't bash college. We just understand that humans can learn a lot more different. So on my free time, I enjoy reading. I read a lot. Ever since Tim put me on books, I read about 40 books a year. That has helped me. If you've heard me in different spaces, sometimes I like to share what has helped me, not just in the Web3 space, but in life, is to read. The same way you sharpen a knife is the same way you need to sharpen your mind. And reading does just that. And the cool thing about reading is that I don't read things to confirm my own biases. I read because I want to learn. And sometimes you have to really let go of your ego and your current belief systems to learn that new thing. So reading helps you with that. I like to work out. Working out is actually kind of my thing to kind of detach myself from the work-life balance. And then obviously now I have a 3-year-old daughter, so spending time with her keeps me grounded, humbled, and focused to make sure I come back and get back to business to learn. If you guys don't follow me yet, go ahead and follow me. I share a lot about just building and a lot of mindset stuff. I'm 26, so I don't know everything, but I like to share what I've come across. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Second order of business is how to communicate effectively. So now starting with the purpose of the space is to share some building insight. And I just want to take some time to appreciate everyone that's here. Tatted, Ritzi, Techie Blocks, Cain, Tony, what's up? Soriso, La Dama, everyone down there, Bruno. Thank you guys for joining. I know you guys have been here since day one, day zero. And you guys always show love, so I want to make sure I give a shout out to everyone here. If I didn't mention you, no disrespect. You know, I'm just out here just spewing my mind right now, top of the morning. So appreciate all of you. So how to communicate effectively. So one thing I've noticed in spaces, so Twitter Spaces is nice. It started with if you guys have used Clubhouse, right? I remember using Clubhouse. I wasn't really active on it, but Twitter Spaces opened up, and I was like, you know what? I love this. Let me take advantage of this in a way where I could practice but also add value. So what I noticed a lot of times too in the Web3 spaces, there'll be spaces where it's like, okay, come chill and come share about your project. And I've gotten in some of them, and sometimes it's funny because I've jumped in some of them where a person's already kind of halfway through their pitch, and there's still another 5 minutes that they talk. And sometimes I find myself like, oh my god, this is kind of I lose interest. And it's not in a way it's not me saying like, oh my god, this is whack. It's just more like I wish this was better because what he's explaining sounds cool, but he lost my interest because it looks like he hasn't sharpened his pitch. So, as a builder, you need to focus on communicating in a crisp manner. This is in general. So whether it's with your internal team, your shareholders, potential users, potential community members, you need to crisply communicate what you're doing. So for example, you want to do something like this. So we should have this utility within the next 2 weeks if all goes as planned. With the systems in play now, all is looking well. Well, it's a very simple statement here, but what you notice is that I put a metric, 2 weeks. Sometimes we get too nuanced in things like, oh, it's coming, and although it might not be hit in 2 weeks, there's a metric, right? And this is something I've learned pitching to actual investors and sitting in investor meetings. You want to have real metrics for them to look at you and that you understand your market. Same thing with NFTs, same thing with Web3 projects. You need to allow your user and your customer to know that you know the market you're tackling and that you're speaking to them. Sometimes you get statements like this, so don't do this. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm trying my hardest and I need patience. It gets overwhelming, so I can't say when this will get done. So I'm gonna be honest, as a builder, we have to assume that everything you're doing is already difficult, or else you wouldn't be building. So if we just lead with the assumption that building is already difficult and it's not as straight lined, things happen, obstacles come into play. Let's just focus on the clear tangibles that we could explain. So, like the previous statement, I said you need to put some tangible numbers. They may not be met at that specific time. However, you need to be intentional with that, and it also allows you to have accountability and with your team. Like, hey guys, I got a couple more days. Give me 3 days for me to finish this new quiz for Learn. My daughter just fractured her leg, so I communicate with Tin and Carlos like, yo man, I know I had this task due on Monday. Can I push it back to Wednesday? I got it done, but I have to take care of my daughter Avi, but I'm still on. Don't worry. So that's clear communication. It's like, instead of me saying like, yo guys, you guys need to understand like my daughter's hurt. Like I can't work right now. It's like, no, we got to communicate effectively so we can move forward. What this does is build trust within your team and within your shareholders. So that's part one of communicating effectively. You just want to share tangibles. Part two of how to communicate effectively is you have to remember that not everyone knows what you're building or what your product solves. You have to make it super easy for anyone listening to understand and grasp your vision. In Web3, it's still super super modern. A lot of people out there are building great stuff, but sometimes we get lost in the sauce when getting too technical. And the thing here is that we want to be very specific, but also being very easy to understand. So, for example, we are building a project that focuses on online learning. We use a technology called non-transferable tokens, very similar to NFTs, but you can't transfer them to issue credentials. I know even saying non-transferable tokens sometimes in spaces is a little difficult to grasp, but what I did there is to add something that people are familiar in the space. If we're in a Web3 space, an NFT space, there's a slight assumption that some people already kind of know what an NFT is at least. So when I say we use non-transferable tokens, that's the first time they're hearing it. They're like, "What the heck is that?" But right away, I say they're very similar to NFTs, but you can't transfer them. There's something that happened in your mind that did that slight connection. So we need to focus on how to communicate that, right? You don't want to do this. We are building on an L2 as opposed to an L1 blockchain. Online learning is nuance. We need to focus on less opaque manners of teaching. That statement itself has offers some technicalities. So like if you don't know what an L1 blockchain is to compare to an L2 blockchain, I've completely lost you. When I say online learning is nuanced, what does that mean? What does opaque mean? So if we get a little too technical, especially in these public spaces, we lose the interest of our listeners. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we stay grounded in our communication of our projects and make sure that people understand what we're building, because not everyone knows what you're building. So both do the good job. However, when you're less technical in the terms, any listener can capture the true mission. This makes it easier for them to get a hold of what you're talking about. There's a place and time to be a little bit technical, but in these public spaces that have become a great learning environment, we want to just be careful that our listeners may be either newbies, are still learning, or may not understand the technicalities of your project. So just let's be very mindful of that. So that was on how to communicate effectively. Second order of business is shill without shilling. So this one is very important because as many spaces open up, the purpose of that space is to shill, which is okay. It's perfectly fine. You should be shilling as much as you can. But you also need to be very, very focused on how you do it. So, we're humans. Most people can talk without stopping. Although this is a great skill, and I'm not going to try to shy you away from it, you have to be very mindful that many people lose interest fast. They also don't just want to hear what your product does 4 times over and over and over again. You can really chill without chilling. So, what does this mean? So, most of the time, and we've heard it, a lot of you in here understand the power of storytelling. Storytelling does wonders. However, you can't just make up a crazy story, or you can actually. I'll actually say it. You actually can make up a crazy story, but people will know when it's genuine. So when I said a little bit about myself, right, that I dropped out of school, that we don't have formal degrees, that's part of my story. That when I do shill in spaces, I make sure that I emphasize that, and at the end, it's like, this is why we're building Learn. This isn't, I'm not building Learn because there's a big opportunity for blockchain and there's a lot of money here. I want a piece of the pie. No, this is a very personal story to me, and I want to make sure people understand that. So I lead with that. So you need to craft a genuine story. You may have a cool project and initiative, but if there's no real genuine story attached to it, it may be really hard to relate potential users and consumers. Usually, a personal story does the best. And I'm not saying that you have to build based on a personal story, but most builders build something based on the issues they've personally faced. So be very mindful of that. You don't want to go into spaces where you straight up chill for 5 minutes and you say either things 3 times over and over again. This is what I kind of see when I used to come into spaces early on. All right, so who wants to come up and chill? Okay, cool. I'll use me as an example. I'll go up and then like, all right, hey, what's up, Luis? Explain who you are and tell us about your project. And what I've noticed is people do this. Hey, yeah, my name is Luis Fausto. My project is brand new. We're the learners. It's 8,000 project. It's for the online learner. Yeah, I think we're the first project, actually, the first project in the space to do it. So that was me in action, me doing some a little bit of play. But what you notice, there's two things there. I have lack of energy. There's no intention in what I'm trying to say. I'm just utilizing the space they gave me. I already lost 30 seconds of your time because I don't know what I'm trying to say and I don't know my product. And two, they still don't know what I'm building. All I said was 8,000 project and online learners. They don't understand what I'm saying. So I have lack of energy. Another thing that I did there is that I said something that a lot of people say in the space that are beginning, is that they like to say that we're the first project or we're the only project to do this. I want to be very adamant about this, is that you don't want to lead your pitch by saying you're the first or you're the only project. Even if you are, that's a weak foundation to start off, because then that's not enough of value prop for a user. What I mean by value prop, that's not enough to sell on a user. Like, oh my God, it's the first project. Like, I don't care. At the end of the day, people don't care if you're the first or last or the middle or the third or the fourth. They just want to know if you could build a really good product in a good manner that makes it easy for them to use. They don't care at the end of the day if you were the first, second, third, or the last one. They just want to make sure you can build. So some statements that you don't want to do is, we're the first project to do this. We're the only project to do this. No one is doing what we're doing. We are so very unique and going to the moon. You don't want to use empty statements like that to shill your project, because most cases, you're not the first one. Most cases, you're not the only one. I remember being at a conference, actually, a small conference, and someone came up to me. It's funny, they're talking to me, Agustin and Carlos, and he kind of looked around and he's like, I think we're the only Chicano team building in Web3. And I started kind of chuckling inside. I'm like, yo, bro, like, do you not see us? Like, I'm a brown boy, bro. Like, you can't say you're the only Chicano Latino building in the space, bro, when you're actually at a mini conference with Latinos. Like, this happened a couple of years ago, and it was just interesting, like, to see, like, like, what do you mean, bro? Sometimes they're just so honed in, and it's good to have focus, but when you get lost in the sauce, it's kind of concerning. So we want to be careful. So the above statements that I mentioned are big turnoffs. Even if you are the only project or the first project to do such a thing, don't lead with that. It's a poor foundation to base your vision on. Vision is too pristine, so you want to protect it. And like I said, at the end of the day, people don't care if you're the first or last one. So things you can do, though, is, for example, statements like, we want to build this because we face some issues ourselves, right? Another statement is, too many times we are faced with this issue and we decided to build in this manner. Another statement is, I want to share a story. When I was younger, and then you go on with your story, and then you start shilling. So usually what happens is, in personal occasions, myself, I share a little bit about myself and my story. And, shout out to Taded, Ozzy, Profe, Cain. Anytime I'm in a space, especially with them, that they kind of already know me, I don't lead like, I come in, I say a couple words, and then they kind of introduce like, hey, Luis, would you like to share a little bit about what you're building? Then they open the door, and then I'm very intentional of like, okay, yeah, if you don't know me, I build Learn. We want to do online verification of your knowledge with job opportunity. using NTTs or non-transferable tokens. The reason why is because I dropped out. We don't have formal education, but there's a big gap in how people learn online, but no way to verify that. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. So when the door opens, you got to be ready to do the alley oop, because Tata just gave me a nice ball, and I'm going to alley oop it and dunk it so that the users can understand what I'm building. So you want to know that. And like I said, you don't want to lead with weak foundation saying we're the only project. I could easily say we're the only project focused on education and job opportunity. No one cares. So I'm not going to lead with that. I'm going to go ahead and share my story and why I started that. So these statements about, we wanted to build this because we faced some issues ourselves, are they're better building blocks. You take the focus out of the empty phrases and you focus on the solution to provide and the reason you're doing it. Your personal story matters, and then you make yourself interesting. You're able to share a story, and then therefore people start asking questions, and that's where you could elaborate more. So that's our section on Shill without shilling. So far, we've done how to communicate effectively, Shill without shilling, and the last order of business is how to be intentional with your words. Before I move on, it's 9:20, so I got about 5 more minutes of me just yapping away. But once again, thank you for everyone that's joining here. I see Joseph Profe that joined, Kuku Khan in here, Cesar, Ivan, Luis, Web3 Manny. What's up, guys? Salti. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm almost done speaking with this format. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this format's a little different. I want to do something different with spaces where it's a little bit of curriculum for 20 to 30 minutes, open mic at the end. And as mentioned above, if you see my pinned tweet and a couple tweets down there, I will be sharing a doc. It's about 10 slides that you can download to walk away with what I kind of spoke about in this space. Obviously, the space is recorded, but sometimes the Twitter UX is kind of hard to find. I wish they had like a search function that I could. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm missing it. And I also want to add a mini quiz powered by Learn, where you could actually verify what you learned in here and show it off in your MetaMask wallet and on OpenSea using our non-transferable tokens. I want to give a shout out to Tatted. I remember early on, this happened about a month ago, 2 months ago, where he mentioned, like, man, these spaces are so educational. I'm putting a lot of time in these spaces. I like what you're doing with verification. I want to give NTTs out. And I said, bro, let's do it whenever you're ready. And then working on this on the back end, it was like, you know what, man, Twitter Spaces has become such an educational space. People need to walk away with true knowledge. So yeah, we're doing a little something different. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, hey, we tried. We're builders. If it works, hey, we kind of uncovered a new innovative way to open a new quote unquote classroom. So just want to say that. And to the last part, be intentional with your words. All right. One of the biggest things I want to make sure builders understand is you have to respect people's time. Not everyone has the time and attention that you would love for them to have for you. You need to respect it, and you need to put that at the forefront. What do I mean by that? You can say everything you're about to say in 2 minutes compared to 5 minutes. If you are well prepared, if you know your product well, you can spew out your show and your marketing and your story in 2 minutes in space that allows other people to chime in and ask questions. If you take up too much people's time, you end up branding yourself the wrong way. You start branding yourself, man, this guy never shuts up. This guy doesn't just blabbers on, he just rambles. So you need to be intentional. So a couple questions that I want to pose that allows you to be intentional is this. Are the words you're saying adding value to your context? Are you repeating yourself a lot? Are you using buzzwords just to fit in? Are you just talking for attention? Are you not seeking feedback and get mad when you do? So those questions are kind of just there to pose and open up your mind to thinking, okay, how can I be better with my words? Um, I'm not saying you need to articulate yourself 100%. We're humans. I choke up, I stutter, but you need to arrive to that space. And once you're given the alley oop and the opportunity to speak, you need to be laser focused to make sure you're adding value to your context. You're not just using words to fit in to be like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. And you need to make sure that, hey, I respect your time. This is something that's implied. You don't have to say this. Hey, I respect all you guys' time, so I'm gonna keep it short. No, do it by performing. Do it where you only talk for 2 minutes and you leave it open. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And there's no questions, awesome. You just move on. And if there's any more value that you could add on, chime in, turn your mic on, talk for a minute, and then back off. So you want to make sure that you respect people's time and you have those questions up top to think about. So making sure you're adding value to the context you're doing. Don't just spew words. And then feedback is big. Some as builders, you need to build thick skin to be empathetic, but also to respect people's feedback because you need another pair of eyes looking at what you're doing. I will say this though, you're the only one that knows what you're building, so protect that. However, though, you need to be open and a little bit unegotistical to accept feedback. That doesn't mean you have to apply the feedback, you just have to accept it. If someone tells me, hey, Luis, like this is not looking too good, okay, then I'll start saying, instead of saying, like, you don't know what you're talking about, you say, can you explain a little bit more? Can you elaborate? And usually, the people that elaborate themselves are doing it out of their kind heart because they still like your project and they like you and they want you to be successful. But maybe sometimes their feedback doesn't align with your roadmap, with your vision. But you have to be prepared and mature enough to accept it. That's what I see a lot of builders sometimes like, you don't know what you're talking about. Go over there and be a critic somewhere else. Dude, the same way I said this earlier before, builders need consumers, consumers need builders. Without one another, we don't have things to actually use. So we need to be respectful of each other's feedback. And also, if you're providing feedback, do it in a good manner. So we want to make sure that all wraps up with intentionality. So I know you guys are probably tired of me talking. I did not go against what I said about talking too much. This is kind of the structure I wanted to go about. But that kind of concludes our Builder Hour with our agenda about who I am, how to communicate effectively, shill without shilling, and being intentional with your words. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to an open mic. So please, if you want to come up and speak, please request. I would love for you, many of you, to come speak up, share what you guys think, ask questions. And there's a lot of builders down here that I would love for them to come up and share their own story. And yeah, so here we go with Ozzy. What's up, Ozzy? How you doing?
What's up, Luis? Good morning. How are you? Great insight here. That it sounds simple when you hear it, right? But applying it, I think it takes the next step. But I think another point about it is when you plan your business out or your idea or your project out, right, you should go through these motions as well, right? Like what is a pain point, what is, what are you going to change? So when you write that down and when you actually have it in your mission and your mission and your vision, it should just naturally come to you, right? Those points that you're making. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. I think as you plan in the beginning or as you're always planning, you kind of memorize why you're doing things and how you're doing things and who you're doing things with.
100%, bro. That you're absolutely right. It's what kind of like a the best byproduct that occurs when you're actually focused and intentional in building in the back end with your team. That the byproduct of that is all this, right? How to communicate that. So you're absolutely right, man. Thank you. And for you guys, anyone that doesn't know Ozzy, Ozzy, man, has created a very nice space for everyone. He's continued to build Hola Metaverso with Tamron and Ritzy, and I always give him credit in the sense because sometimes when we talk about building, we think about developers or artists, which we I respect them. I'm not saying that, but there's also a new realm of people building real life events. So shout out to you, Ozzy. Thank you for being a builder in Web3, man. Would love to hear more about what your take is on all this too. So, but we have Cain, bro. How are you, Cain? How you doing, man?
What's going on, hermano Luis? Doing amazing, bro. I love this energy. I love what you're doing. Se necesita in this space. Um, and I'm here taking notes. I'm taking notes because I mean, obviously, it's you're dropping some bombs. I mean, basically, what I just wanted to come up and say was this is needed, um, because obviously we're all builders and we're all running at like 100 miles an hour, and sometimes we need those right those the basics to know how to do what you're doing. I mean, there's passion behind everyone's project, but you gotta understand too that the structure, the way things need to be done. And I love that you're doing this. For those that don't know too, I also like kind of I like to open the mic for some new beginners because sometimes it's intimidating and scary. And I give that opportunity to just kind of speak and like you said, shill. um but if there's a way that they could like in a sense almost like graduate, right? Like we get the newbies that are coming in, and then after they're done like a little bit, like getting the los nervios out of your way, then send them out to Luis Fausto's class of of next step education, right? And then there, like, right, you'll what I'm seeing, what this would look like, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, is that when you open these spaces just like you're doing now, and then open up the second half, of just people that are ready to do their 2-minute pitch, right? With your critique. And I think that's where you're kind of going, or going with this space. So and también igual que nosotros, right? Latinoverse, my brothers down there, we're getting to a point too where we need these structures, which is why I was writing down notes. Sometimes we're so excited with all the information that we have that we're just kind of like talking for hours, and I'm definitely, I raise my hand to that. I could talk forever. Pero I love what you're doing, man, and I love to maybe see if we can connect like this, especially with these spaces like that. I could send people your way when I do my show section, for newbies, and then in a way to send them here to you, to get the core stuff and kind of do their 2-minute spiel, and then you kind of give them some corrections.
Absolutely, bro. No, I mean, this is something, like I mentioned, Tatted kind of inspired this because I feel like Twitter Spaces. I've talked to a lot of people, and I see people tweeting like, "Oh my God, I walked away with this Twitter Space with so much knowledge," right? And every time knowledge is a trigger word for me, because every time I see knowledge, like, "Oh my God, are you proving that? Are you capturing that?" You know what I mean? But it's beautiful what you said, man, and I'm all about it. The thing the thing about our team, one of our core things, right, is lowest hanging fruit. When we have an idea, we need to test it as fast as possible. Anybody could come up with an idea and leave it on the deck, on the shelf, and get dusty. But you need to implement it as fast as you can. You need to be focused to do that. So yeah, thank you, Cain. What you guys are doing, man, you already know. If you guys don't know, go follow Latinoverse. Latinoverse was one of the first, actually, probably the first group of people. I remember I was in a space with Omizi, and he said something very powerful when we were actually starting to learn. He says, "People have FOMO of projects. I have FOMO of being your guys' friends." So when he said that, I'm like, "Wow, man, that's love." And I met Cain and the brothers. I'm like, dude, in person. Shout out to Joseph, who's down there, who did Superman. That's when I met them in person, and it was game over. They're brothers, and what they're doing and what we're collaborate on is mutual. So, Cain, thank you so much for your words. Whatever it is, that we need to do, right, to better educate people, we're all about it. And that's another thing I want to say. A lot of people are in the education sector. Even if you're not in the education sector, being in Web3, you are an educator, because a lot of people ask you, right? They may be asking you from an artist perspective, hey, what's blockchain? What's this? You are actually informally teaching people. So whether we're not in the education sector directly, like Latinoverse, like even Ozzy with Hola Metaverso educational spaces, or us with Learn, you are an educator. So I want to make clear, it's not about who's educating the best, it's how we're doing it together, meaning people learn in different manners. This is one way, so I'm contributing to this one way right now. So, Kane, thank you so much for your words. I appreciate you, man. Un abrazo. I'll have you speak more here, because I want to make sure builders kind of pitch in their tips, but I want to go ahead and go with the Time Machine, who's up here, and then La Dama after, so they could contribute as well.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me up. Appreciate it. Yeah, I set the alarm for this room because I've been following y'all and I haven't been able to jump in on a lot of rooms, but I had to walk the dog, so I came in late. And my background is in technical sales, so this is like an engineer with sales. And what I learned as a salesperson was that the best listeners are actually salespeople, right? The you want to provide enough information to be helpful, but really the best value comes when they start asking questions that pertain to their specific situation. But in Web3 and the NFT world, it my experience is just shill, but which is why I kind of backed off last year. But I guess my question is, where do you think that balance is as far as like shilling and providing value, but also letting people ask the questions and provide that insight to where you're listening to those more than selling?
Great question, man. Thank you for sharing too. Technical sales and like you said, I love what you said. Salespeople are the best listeners, right? And keywords the best. Some actually you could be in sales and not be a good listener. So I would love for other builders to chime in. But to answer your question, you can tell when someone's been spending time understanding their product and how do they market it and how they shill it, how they share it, right? When someone, you lead with passion, right? I love talking about learn, but I don't talk about it 24/7 because not everyone needs to listen to what I'm saying. But when I have the opportunity, I'm prepared, right? It's like going there's a saying, right? What is it? You rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So kind of taking that concept is you have to be ready at all times, and when someone's been preparing to be a warrior, and I think is really sitting down. If you have a team, this tends to be easier because you bounce off ideas with each other. So I have a team of two other people that we bounce off ideas and we sharpen it in real time. If you are alone, this is a little difficult, but one thing is spend time really really getting down your one liner. That's important. You have to have a one liner. And number two is after your one liner and you have someone's attention, how can you keep that attention for at least another minute or a minute and a half? Um, I know that's a little general, but that's what's helped me, and that's kind of what I keep in the back of my head whenever I come up here to these spaces.
That's really helpful. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and if Cain, Ozzy, La Dama, anyone that wants to come up here to chime in to give any tips, please do so because I'm not the only builder up here. So great question. If we could keep chiming into these questions that are posed up here, but I want to open the mic to La Dama. How are you? Good morning.
Hi guys. Hi everyone. It's actually a little bit past 12 here in New York, but I was actually really, really looking forward to this space just because I feel that Luis, you always leave me with that little seed in my brain, right? About learning, about doing something that makes me uncomfortable. And Cain, when you were talking about, you like to kind of have people in your space that are newbies kind of come in and speak a little bit. I was definitely one of your newbies, so I do want to say that I think that's also very important when we are talking about onboarding people, allowing them to be uncomfortable and providing the space, like a safe space to say, do you need direction? I can point you to people that might be able to help you. So I think another point that I do want to highlight is that many of us have different specialties, many of us have different interests, but the delivery sounds like it's going to be the same one, a focused delivery. So for me, one of the biggest ways that I have gained confidence is through knowledge. So if I know that I'm going to host a space, I definitely try to learn as much as I can about whatever it is that I'm hosting. If it's about the person, what are they talking about? What questions do I have that maybe the listeners might also have? If it's content, well, let me give you content that I think might be able to help you. Let me leave you with resources. So I think for me, that's confidence. The confidence comes from knowledge, and knowledge requires time. It requires for me to say, I'm going to spend an hour every day trying to focus on one thing. And it may be different than what everybody else is doing, but this is what I'm doing. This is the way I'm contributing. And I think Ileana posted today that women in Web3 were 7%. I mean, and if we start to break it down a little bit more, Latinas are a lot less than that. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind, right? That as Latinas, we do have an obligation to be in the spaces to consider what is it or how is it that we can continue to build our community? What value can I bring? Can I be doing something different? So we're in this space, we're in Web3, and we're just kind of living in it. But when we look at numbers, when we look at reality, I mean, it kind of really hits hard to say, really, 7%. I mean, Latinas a lot less than that. Let's build, let's onboard people, but how do we do that? I mean, you're really much on point, Luis, that we have to have a plan. We need to have a vision. We need to be focused, and we need to leave people with this resource, with a way for them to learn so they can pass it on, just like I am. I'm learning and I try to pass it on, and if I don't know something, I can point you to the person that I know will be able to help you. So I think that maybe this is a space that we should have recurrence, so maybe we can all help each other.
Beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful. I think when you start speaking about knowing about the content that people may know is you need to deploy empathy. And as a leader in Web3, empathy is your best friend as well. Yesterday, Tata tweeted something really interesting, that some people are fake being nice in here until you become a threat or someone else becomes a threat. And we are seeing that in this space, you know? Sometimes deploying empathy is seen as like, oh, they want something from me compared to what can I provide. So that was beautifully said. And to the point of having women in Web3, we need to make sure, I've said this since day one, we need to make sure that women are in the forefront, because it doesn't matter. There's so many other people building, Latinas specifically too, but women in general need to understand that, or we need to understand that women are in here too, and they're active. They're active, and they're not here to say, oh, they're better than one another. They're here to contribute the same way we're able to contribute. So thank you so much. That was beautiful, beautiful words. Um, I would love for you to continue to elaborate on that in these spaces. You know, I try not to spread myself thin, but I want to continue this spaces, this builder hour series for sure. So I would love to eventually, you know, if you guys want to, I want to source some feedback too at the end on how we can make it better, whether we should have guest speakers at the time. It's kind of a precursor to another product that we're building. So um, thank you so much for that contribution. I'd love to hear more about you, more about your insight later on in the space. But we have a couple more people up here. Vida came up and Omizi. I think Omizi came up first, man. How are you, brother? ¿Cómo estás?
Luis, I'm doing good, bro. How are you doing? I don't know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm kind of driving, so I don't know if it's cutting off there. Let me know if
You're good, brother.
mic
You're
check.
good, man.
One,
Yeah,
two.
you're good,
Nice.
brother. We hear you.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, you know the question that was asked, right? How to go about coming up here and either providing some sort of or how to not how to shill, but in my experience, and I know we're getting, you guys are going to hear the name Tatted come up a lot just because he's inspired so many of us, right? And what I've learned in the space, and when it comes to shilling, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? You don't want to you want to do it the right way. And you know, when I first started in these spaces and started hearing Tatted go up there, and I never once heard him kind of shill a project or talk about anything, or if he's selling or offering anything. What I did see him do a lot was provide value. And as he was providing value to the community, right? The community was now all ears and was able to kind of look at Tatted, and now when Tatted is offering something, I'm not saying he is, but when he does decide to offer something, he's going to have a whole community behind him, right? So as I started seeing that in the spaces, right, when it comes to the theme of building and doing all this stuff and what it really means, right? Tatted is a perfect example of that, and that's where I've kind of learned how to really build in this space. And it's not only about building the traditional way, or building what you're working on. It's also building, right? You could build an audience, build a reputation, build credibility. There's so many ways you can build without having to be a developer, Luis, like how you mentioned at the beginning, right? And for anybody that's listening and that's new and wants to shill a project or wants to shill a service, I'm not saying it's bad, but there is a right and a, I don't want to say a wrong way of doing things, but there is a right way, and then there's a things, right? And if you could come in here, provide value, start, you know, answering some questions for people, show some knowledge, have people interested in you, start believing in you, starting to believe in what you're talking about, and and basically give yourself some credibility in the space. I think that's the best form of shilling before shilling, right? So if you could do things a little bit backwards, kind of come into the space, provide some sort of value, whatever it may be, right? If you have a sales background, start talking about sales. If you have a marketing background, start talking about marketing. If you have a development background, start talking about developing. And if you provide some sort of value, and then shill once you have captured the audience attention, then I think it could work tenfold for you. And that's just my 2 cents on the topic. And you know, and also to say hello here to everybody, man. Luis, you know, it's there's a lot of love between us, man. And Tadid and Teki and Vida, who you know, we just started working closely with her as well. La Dama, I have yet to personally have words with you, but from what you've said, you're definitely someone who I know brings value to this community, and who I definitely want to keep an eye on closely. Ozzy doing great things on the Hola Metaverso side of things. Who's actually he's one of the few people who I know who doesn't just talk the talk but also walks the walk, right? And there's just a lot of great folks up here. We have Soirizo who also does a lot of Latino and onboarding events. I know que le quedé mal on one of his first events, but bro, I'm gonna make that up for you to you, I promise. But there's a lot of talent up here. Techie blocks, who you know, who are people who are actually building real things in real life, and think people that we can all learn from, right? So, um, it's just you know, I have a lot more flowers to give, but I don't want to take up too much of the space, man. Luis, thank you for the time, my brother.
Bro, anytime, man. Anytime, bro. This is anytime me I speak to the cool thing with Omizi Cain, I have him on a phone basis. I could call him up right now and they'll answer and we'll talk. Yo, man, how's it going? We check in. Hey, bro, what are you guys working on? What's your task on? Is there any way I can help you? You guys need a pitch deck help? You whatever. Like, hey, man, how can we collaborate? Omizi, like, I have a opportunity, bro. We could do something big. So, I want to. You said something super crucial, man. It's not about a right way or a wrong way to shill. There's just an optimal way, right? Like you said, you don't want to say there's a wrong way, but there is a clear optimal way. And that goes back to really honing into your words and knowing what you're trying to say when the opportunity arises. Because you don't want to fumble that bag. You don't want to fumble that opportunity. Everyone maybe in here knows about the elevator pitch, right? You can't miss that opportunity. I have a buddy up here, Tony. He's up here. He's worked at Uber, and he introduced us to a lot of great people. And one of the things that we've learned through that is talking to institutional investors. Institutional investors is so much different than talking to the community, right? Community, you could get away with certain things, but with institutional investors, you have to be top notch. You have to be squeaky clean with your numbers, your market, everything. And you know, I know Web3 is decentralized, things like that, but there's frameworks. I'm posing that word very, very strategically here. There's frameworks that we can take away, not habits, but frameworks, so that way we could act as professionals. Because Web3 is, yes, full of degenerates and fun, and it's sexy at sometimes. It sucks sometimes when people lose money, but we have to be. We're professionals at the end of the day. If no one can hang out with us off of these spaces or in person, uh, we failed that. We need to be professionals. But Omizi, thank you so much for sharing, man. Omizi, Cain, what you guys are building. They're builders. They're focused. And thank you so much for coming up here, brother. You already know this is your space. And I'm so happy, you know, going next to Vida right here. Vida's gonna speak next, and it's really beautiful to see how teams get sourced through the community. That's the beautiful part. So, Vida, how are you?
Buenos días, Luis Fausto. Good morning, everybody. I mean, I feel like I'm standing amongst giants. No joke, no exaggeration. The only thing that I have to contribute to this is that yes, um, you are of value exactly where you're at now. Like you do hold value. Just show up, be transparent about who you are and what you bring to the table, and the rest literally falls into place. Um, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know everyone. Sometimes the most important thing that we can do is come in and just listen, because you can't really move until you survey the land, right? You need to know where you're going. I love that the Gardner quote earlier because it reminds me of like Sun and Steel. I don't have a lot to contribute in a lot of areas. So I just show up and I bring my basket of gifts, right? And I say, look, these are my gifts, these are my talents, this is who I am. Does anybody need any of these, right? And people don't believe this about me, but I am ridiculously shy, like extraordinarily shy. So sometimes going outside of your comfort zone and doing the things that scare you in a positive way is a really good way to move because that is where I've gotten for me my best gifts has been in reaching out to people. I mean, I sent out a group DM this morning that absolutely terrified me, and now I am so full of enthusiasm because these amazing women responded to me. Like, I thought they were just gonna be like, she's crazy, like, get away from us. But no, they didn't. La Dama was one of them. I was like so stoked. I'm so excited about what's to come here. The same thing with Cain and Luis Fausto. When I've approached them, tatted, I get very nervous, but I'm like, look, I have this idea. Do you want it? You can have it. I don't know if te sirve or not, but here it is. I come offering this because if you show up from a perspective of what you can take, you're probably not going to get very far. Um, but if you show up with the spirit of what you can give, the rest usually falls into place. Um, that's what happened in real life business. That's what's happened with my nonprofit. That's what's happened in this space. I think Twitter messes with my head when it sends me stats saying that I've grown like 133,000% in the last 28 days because it's it's bonkers. It's crazy how much it's grown. I've never been a social media person. Haven't ever wanted to grow my social medias because I'm super, like I said, I'm super duper shy, but it happens by itself. The good stuff will come if you show up and you offer what you have. If you offer your talents, if you offer your gifts, the rest generally will fall into place. That's Thank you guys. Thank you, Luis Fausto. Thank you, Tatted, Kane, Omizi. Like I tell you guys all the time, like it's literal magic to be around you guys. Thank you.
Amazing, Vida. When I heard that you were part of the Latino Verse team, my I had a smile on my face. I'm like, hell yeah, man! This is what it's about. Integrating and building together. And you bring, like you said, I love what you said. I'm listening to everyone what they're saying, and some things I take and it's like, wow. You said that you bring your basket of goods, that you don't know everything, right? That's called awareness. You don't walk around saying like, hey, this is what I know how to do and this is what I could bring. You actually say, look, this is what I don't know and this is what I do know, and I'm willing to share this. I'm willing to learn this, right? And I think that's called intentionality as well. That's a form of intentionality. So thank you for always deploying your awareness. It's another skill that builders need to deploy is awareness about themselves and knowing that you don't need to know everything. And the best thing that you do know is that you don't know. So that way you have that room for growth. So thank you for so much for that, Vida. We do have about 8 minutes left. I would love to have this space longer, but due to my scheduling and time, have some other meetings I have to take care of. But I just want to do a little recap before we open the mic up for the last few minutes. So I started this little series, Web3 Builder Hour, today. I wanted to do something different. Again, shout out to Tatted for the inspiration. After this space, so the structure of the space was the first 20, 30 minutes was curriculum. If you didn't show up, there's a recording, but I'll also be supplying a link so you can download a deck that has a curriculum that I just spoke about in the first 20 minutes, right? The reason why is because the other day I was thinking about it. Twitter Spaces has so much added value than just voice. You need to walk away with tangibles. So this is one way I want to test it. Walk away with the deck that you have on hand. Second thing is that we want to provide a quiz after this, powered by Learn, where you could get an NTT if you pass. Why? Because I think Twitter Spaces have become a really good classroom, and I think classrooms, and we should treat it just as that. We respect the classrooms, the traditional classrooms, the four walls. We need to respect the way autodidacts learn, and this is one way. So we need to make sure that we capture it, and we need to make sure that it's valuable. And I was very, very focused on making sure, like, who am I to teach people this? But I'm not the expert. I'm just someone that's in the trenches, and I'm willing to share it and go over the hill and come back. So that's a little bit of the structure. And then the last thing I do want to mention, my DMs are always open. I do encourage you guys to please give me feedback in any way possible. I'm not the type of person to just seek people like, congrats, man, this was great. I actually lean into people telling me, hey, man, you could do this way better. So please be brutally honest with me. I want to keep doing these things with these structures, but this has become a new classroom. So I want to make sure that we all come in as students, as teachers, with all the speakers up here. There's teachers down there that didn't come up, but there's learning happening all the time. So we could simultaneously learn and teach at the same time and walk away with so much value and take what you need and leave what you don't need. So I just want to do a little recap before we close the space in about 5 minutes. But if anyone has anything else to say, please do so. Out of my heart, I appreciate all of you guys. I have so much love for everyone in here. If I don't know you personally, I still love you. If I do know you personally, I love you, and anything that I can do on behalf of me, Luis Fausto, and as behalf of Learn. I'm a three-headed dragon, so anything that I vouch for, my team knows that they trust my judgment. So anything that we can do as a collective, or me personally, please let me know. But I would love to open the mic to continue this conversation for the last 5 minutes.
Thank you, Luis, for having me up here, and I look forward to your other spaces, man. And anything you need, from Hola Metaverso or myself, we're more than happy to help you in any way.
Thank you, Ozzy. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all you do, brother.
Hey, I just wanted to say thanks again for having me up and answering my question. That was very helpful. And yeah, like I said, I've been paying attention to the movement that y'all are doing. So keep it up. I can't always be in the rooms, but I really try. But I appreciate you. And if you ever need anything, hit me up. I'm an artist. I'm an engineer. I'm a salesman. Hit me up.
Awesome, brother. Thank you for being up here, and thank you for posing a good question. And sharing a little bit about yourself, man. Let's stay in touch, and anything you need. I'm sure people up here too can share anything. La dama, Cain o Mizzy, any last words? Vida?
For
Just keep
me,
on learning, everybody. Oh, sorry, Vida.
no, go, Dama.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to say just to keep on learning, right? Let's learn from each other, and it's all fair when you say I don't know, please help me. It's very basic, but I think that's very human, and that's definitely a way that I learn. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, and I may feel like, oh, maybe I don't know, but saying I don't know, please help me learn. It's a very basic concept that can get you from 0 to 1. So let's practice that.
Yes, and see, that's why you were supposed to go first because I'm about to piggyback off of that. Um, just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. Even if you don't have questions yet, even if you don't have the answers, because most of us, the more we learn, the more we realize how little we know, you know? So just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. Just keep peeking your head in and making connections. And um, I really like words. I posted this the other day because it just came up, but follow your enthusiasm. The root for that word, enthusiasm, is divinely inspired or inspired by the gods. There's a reason why there are things that make you enthusiastic about things. Follow that. Follow the things that give you that sense of enthusiasm, and you won't go wrong.
I'll take this moment también para piggyback on all of that goodness is definitely get uncomfortable. I remember my first time was very uncomfortable. And now, I mean, it's as somebody told me, and that really changed my course, is they told me that what you're doing is bigger than what you are, and it's not for you anymore, it's for the people. So if you take yourself out of the equation, this is for the people that you want to help build. This is not your project anymore, right? This is for others. So if you're doing something out there that you know that needs attention and a voice, and sometimes you might be a little shy or uncomfortable, there's spaces for you to go up there and get uncomfortable. This is definitely one. Luis is open heart. This guy is genuinely here to help, and there is no better joy that brings to our lives than to see, see the building of somebody transforming from somebody that's shy to someone that just spreads joy and love, and just right off the top right here, I have, La Dama and Vida, two perfect great examples. And they show up, right, they get uncomfortable, they come up and they speak. And that's that's exactly what we need in this space. We need some voices like this. And by them sharing their message, it reaches a ton of people. So if you're doing this for the greater good, then you come up here, you get shy, you get uncomfortable, because there's voices, there's people out there. You never know how far your message can reach and the changes that it can do to people. So yeah, man, what you're doing here, Luis, just keep on doing what you're doing, brother.
Beautiful words, brother. Beautiful words, Cain. Thank you for all that. And yeah, I think the aura of Web3, right? It started with WAGMI, and although maybe we won't all make it, one thing we could all do is definitely build together. The thing is that there's room for everyone, and when everyone's ready to como se dice en español, aportar and contribute, that's when the magic happens. So thank you so much for that, Cain. La Dama, beautiful words, Vida. Thank you, Ozzy. Omizi, if you're driving, please drive safe, brother. I do have some requests coming up here, but unfortunately, I do have to close the space out of respect to my schedule, respect to the time for other people that I have in meetings. But all I want to say is this: one thing I always walk away is, I'm a learner. I'm an autodidact. I learn fast, and I learn from people. Thank you guys for allowing me to learn in this space as well, about you guys, about myself, on how to do this a lot better. Please let me know if this space was useful. Again, please stay on the lookout for that quiz and for that deck. It will be ready in a few hours. I just want to make sure everything's ready. But once that's ready, please share it with anybody that you think will find it useful. And then the last thing I will say to walk away from the space is, one thing I have been saying is, yes, learn the Web3 space. The Web3 space is fascinating. It's beautiful. The thing is, you don't want to neglect learning about yourself. You need to learn about yourself, because when you navigate this space and in life, you need to know how to navigate stress. You need to know how to navigate FOMO. You need to know how to navigate your emotions. Because what happens sometimes, we get stressed and we deploy it and point the finger that the reason why we didn't make money in Web3 was because this guy Luis Fausto said that I need to be a builder, but I can't be a builder. It's not about that. I'm here to share what I've seen, what I've known, but you also need to be really good with your own judgment. Walk with a steady head. Be nice and cold in terms of focus, but nice and warm when talking to people. So that's all I want to say. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for joining me in this space. This is about, I think, my second time hosting. It's different than just speaking in a space, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Shout out to everyone down there. I want to give everyone love, and thank you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I hope to see you in the next one.